Hello, today's book is called Flyboy and it's from a series called The Wings. And the Wings series is about children, boys and girls, who go back in time to fly famous aeroplanes. So one of them is about a Spitfire, another one's about the Typhoon, and this is about the Sopwith Camel, which was an aeroplane used in the First World War. And it's a story about a boy called Jatinder who is at a football camp. The football camp he's at is near an old airfield where First World War and Second World War planes used to fly from. And he's staying with a family while he's on this football camp. And the guy, the man in the family is called Steve. And he notices that Jatinder struggles a bit putting himself forward, that it's not that he's not brave, he just doesn't put himself forward for some situations where he might benefit, where he might actually, if he actually tried something, he would enjoy it, but he sort of shies away from doing new things. So Steve sees that Jatinder has this problem, and he gives him a book about a famous pilot from the First World War who's called Hardit Singh Malik. And Jatinder is a Sikh, and Steve knows that Jatinder is a Sikh. He also knows that Hardit Singh Malik, the famous pilot from the First World War, who was a true pilot, was also a Sikh. And he thinks that if Jatinder can read about him and what he achieved in his life, it might help him become more confident. And so that's what happens. So in the bit I'm just going to read you a short bit where Jatinder starts to find out about Hardit Singh Malik and how that has an impression on him and starts to change how he approaches the world. So, and this is based on true events. So Hardit Singh Malik was a true pilot who was from India, and he moved to this country, to England, when he was 14 years old to go to school, and that's when later he became a pilot. That night, Jatinder left Greg playing a game on his phone and Rachel watching TV with Esther. He decided on an early night so he could read the book that Steve had given him. It was one of those old-fashioned books with very long chapters and very small letters that were too close together, but it had some good photos. Jatinder flicked through it, looking at the photos and the bits that interested him. He read about Hardit Singh Malik. When he was a boy in India, how he'd left home aged 14 to go to Britain to school, and how, when the First World War broke out, he'd written to his family to say he wanted to fight. There was a copy of the letter in the book. One line in it grabbed Jatinder's attention. Surely one is not fit to live if one is not ready to face death and smile. Jatinder didn't quite understand what that meant. Surely one is not fit to live if one is not ready to face death and smile. And he was sleepy now, his eyes wanting to close. He could hear the wind had picked up outside and could sense something odd, like the smell of petrol or a petrol station. Jatinder put the book down and was drifting off to sleep when his eyes snapped open. There was a ghost of a First World War airman in the room. The man. And that is the beginning of the story. And the ghost of Hardit Singh Malik comes to see Jatinder where he's staying, and he takes Jatinder back in time so that together they take part in some of the real things that happened in the First World War to Hardit Singh Malik. And one of the things that happens to him was he was shot down and he had to crash land, and he was actually shot in the leg, but he still went on flying. He still, after he was shot in the leg, he still went onto other airplanes and tried to fly and help fight in the First World War against Germany. And that's the story. And what Jatinder gets from this is he realises that although Hardit Singh Malik was scared of things that were going to happen to him, he kind of took his chances and took his opportunities to do interesting things. And Jatinder gets inspiration from that and then goes on, based on a real true story, to go and do things in the future. And that's kind of the reason I wrote this. Is when I was younger, I was quite I didn't really take part in things I could have taken part in, and I could have done a lot more exciting things, but I was scared of failing and scared of it not working out for me, so I didn't do loads of things that, looking back now, I really wished I'd tried to do. And that's kind of why I wrote it, because I think if you've got a chance to do something, it doesn't matter if it goes wrong. It's just trying it that's the important thing. Like when I wrote books, when I started writing books, I wrote 4 or 5 books before I got my first book published, and I'm really glad I kept trying, even though it did begin by starting to go wrong. In the end, it went well, and so that in the book is kind of I suppose, the message in the book. Anyway, I do hope you enjoy it. So that's Flyboy in the Wings series.